Level 1 begins with a simple online application. You visit the CIA website like thousands of other applicants. Fill in your personal details, education, and work history. Then press submit. After that, there's nothing to do except wait. Days become weeks, and weeks turn into months. Nearly half a year later, an email finally arrives. You've been invited to Virginia for the next stage. The office doesn't look like the gateway to one of the world's most secretive organizations. Bright fluorescent lights hum overhead, stale coffee fills the air, and across the table sits an interviewer whose expression never changes. 4 hours, the questions keep coming. Where did you grow up? Which languages do you know? Have you ever broken the law? Have you ever used illegal drugs? At first, the conversation feels routine. Then you realize every answer is being measured against the last. Passing the interview leads to something even more intimidating. You're seated in a quiet room with no windows, as straps tighten across your chest. Sensors are clipped to your fingers, and a blood pressure cuff squeezes your arm. The examiner begins asking deeply personal questions, some reaching back to moments you've spent years trying to forget. The machine records every change in your breathing and heartbeat. It isn't reading your thoughts, but you believe it can. That belief is enough. Small mistakes, hidden memories, and long-buried secrets suddenly spill out because staying silent feels impossible. A few weeks later, another letter arrives. You've cleared the process and earned a place in the CIA's clandestine service trainee program. It feels like the finish line, but in reality, it's only the first step into a life. It will slowly change everything you thought you knew about yourself. Your training begins at Camp Peary in Virginia, a place most people simply call the farm. Hidden behind layers of security, thousands of acres of forests and training grounds become your entire world for the next year and a half. Once you pass through the gates, life changes immediately. Every morning starts before sunrise. By 5 o'clock, you're already running through thick Virginia fog with dozens of other trainees. Breakfast is quick, quiet, and practical because every minute has a purpose. Soon, you're inside classrooms, studying foreign governments, extremist groups, intelligence networks, and the tradecraft that separates an ordinary observer from a professional spy. Before long, the lessons move beyond books. You're taught to recognize surveillance by noticing tiny details most people ignore. The same vehicle appearing too many times. Someone lingering in a cafe long after their coffee has gone cold. A stranger whose eyes keep returning to you no matter where you walk. You begin searching for patterns hidden inside everyday life, until nothing around you feels ordinary anymore. Escaping surveillance becomes another daily exercise. You slip into crowded department stores, weave through different floors, disappear into service hallways, and exit through loading docks where getaway vehicles are already waiting. If someone is still following you after the exercise ends, you've made a mistake. The practical skills keep growing. You learn to open high-security locks without leaving marks, quietly enter rooms that should be impossible to access, hide listening devices where no one thinks to look, and photograph sensitive documents in only a few seconds before placing everything back exactly as you found it. Then the training becomes far more psychological. You're taught that recruiting an asset isn't about force, it's about understanding people. Every target has a weakness driven by money, personal beliefs, fear, or pride. Your job is to discover which one controls them and carefully use it to your advantage. Practice missions send you into nearby cities where instructors secretly hunt you as if they were hostile intelligence officers. Every encounter feels real because failure carries real consequences. Many trainees never make it. Some collapse under constant stress. Others struggle with the endless deception or lose confidence during staged interrogations. Sleep deprivation and psychological exercises designed to blur the line between truth and manipulation. The people who graduate aren't always the strongest or the smartest. They're the ones who learn to separate their emotions from their mission, building an invisible wall between their personal life and the work they'll eventually be asked to do. When the final evaluations end, you finish near the top of your class. A badge is placed in your hand, along with a carefully prepared cover identity. Training is over. Now you're expected to live the life you've spent 18 months preparing for, and the real test is only beginning. Your first assignment takes you to an American embassy in Eastern Europe, in a country shaped by the legacy of the former Soviet bloc. On paper, you're a political attaché. Your name appears on diplomatic lists, and your days are filled with official meetings, embassy receptions, and conversations that seem completely ordinary. Behind that public role, however, your real mission is just beginning. Every event you attend becomes part of the job. A handshake isn't simply a greeting. A casual conversation isn't just small talk. While everyone else enjoys the evening, you're quietly studying the people around you. You constantly ask yourself the same questions. Who has access to valuable information? Who is frustrated with their government? Who is vulnerable enough to cooperate? Over the following months, you carefully build profiles on potential targets, their routines, financial problems, political opinions, family situations, and personal habits all become pieces of a larger puzzle. You aren't looking for perfect people. You're looking for the weakness that opens the door. One man eventually stands out. He's a mid-level official inside the foreign ministry with access to confidential diplomatic communications. More importantly, he's drowning in gambling debt. You first approach him in a casino. Nothing about the meeting seems unusual. You buy a few drinks, strike up friendly conversations, and slowly earn his trust. Weeks turn into months as your relationship grows stronger. Whenever he loses more money than he can afford, you're there to help. First, it's a small loan, then another. Eventually, the amount grows into tens of thousands of dollars. By then, the debt is doing exactly what you expected. He depends on you whether he wants to admit it or not. Months after your first meeting, you finally ask for something in return. Just a few internal documents, nothing that appears especially important. At least, that's what you tell him. It's also what he tells himself as he hands them over. The decision feels small, but it changes everything. Without fully realizing it, he's crossed a line he can never uncross. That night, you return to the embassy with your first recruited asset. Inside a foreign government, the operation has taken months of patience, planning, and quiet manipulation. You sit down for dinner like any other evening, showing little emotion. The mission is complete, but deeper assignments are already waiting. And soon, even the protection of an embassy won't be enough. Not long after proving yourself in the field, you're offered a different assignment, one that very few officers ever accept. Instead of operating under diplomatic protection, you're asked to work under non-official cover, known simply as NOC. Accepting the role means giving up every safety net you've relied on. You won't carry diplomatic credentials. There won't be an embassy waiting if something goes wrong. If local authorities expose you, no government official will step forward to claim you. You'll face whatever punishment the country decides, completely on your own. You still say yes. Your old identity disappears almost overnight. A new one takes its place, complete with a believable career, personal history, and paperwork that can survive close inspection. To everyone around you, you're now a successful business consultant working for an international consulting company. The company has offices, employees, and real clients, but behind the scenes, it exists to support intelligence operations. Soon your cover becomes your everyday life. The people living next door believe you're constantly traveling for business meetings. Friends assume you left government work years ago. Even the people closest to, only the carefully constructed version of your life. The truth belongs to only a handful of officers back at headquarters. Communication changes as well. Direct phone calls are replaced with methods designed to leave almost no trace. A discreet mark on a wall confirms a meeting. A package hidden beneath a public bench contains instructions. An encrypted message is concealed inside what appears to be an ordinary website. Every exchange is planned so that, if discovered, it reveals almost nothing. Living this way slowly changes your habits. A packed travel bag never leaves your side. More than one passport is always within reach. You study reflections in shop windows before crossing the street. You notice the same faces appearing too often and memorize the vehicles behind you during every drive home. Your route changes constantly, and you avoid returning to the same cafes or restaurants often enough for anyone to recognize a pattern. Over time, the isolation becomes harder than the danger itself. There are days when nobody knows both your real identity and your exact location. If something happens, your true story could disappear with you. Then the warning signs finally appear. During an operation in Beirut, two unfamiliar men remain parked where they shouldn't be. Moments later, sunlight flashes off a camera lens from a nearby building. They're small details, but they're enough. Your cover hasn't completely collapsed, but cracks have started to spread. Headquarters decides not to take the risk. You're quietly extracted, brought back 4 weeks of questioning and debriefing, and then offered a new path. This time, the mission won't depend on staying invisible. It will depend on surviving the fight itself. After weeks of debriefing, you're presented with an opportunity, unlike anything you've done before. The agency wants to transfer you into the Special Activities Division, where covert intelligence gives way to direct action. The skills that once helped you avoid conflict will now prepare you to enter it. The training starts all over again. For 6 relentless months, you're pushed through some of the toughest military instruction imaginable. You practice clearing buildings room by room, mastering close-quarters combat until every movement becomes instinct. Days are spent learning advanced weapons, explosives, and small unit tactics. Nights are devoted to survival exercises that leave little room for rest. The challenges only become harder. You jump from aircraft at extreme altitude, free-falling thousands of feet before opening your parachute. You train underwater, operating complete darkness, and endure SEER exercises designed to prepare you for the possibility of capture. During one phase, you're confined in a cramped space for days, forced to experience the physical and mental strain of imprisonment before it can ever happen for real. Most of the instructors come from elite military units. They care less about your ability to recruit spies than your ability to keep a team alive under fire. Every mistake is corrected immediately because, in the field, even a small error can cost lives. Your first deployment sends you to Afghanistan. For months, you live inside a remote mud compound, tucked away in a valley that rarely appears on official maps. You grow a beard, wear local clothing, and eat the same simple meals as the Afghan fighters working beside you. Trust is never guaranteed. Alliances shift constantly, and today's partner could become tomorrow's enemy. The only certainty is that every decision carries consequences. Your assignment is straightforward in theory, but far more complicated in practice. You help locate high-value targets, confirm intelligence, and coordinate strikes meant to remove them from the battlefield. From a distance, you watch missiles erase buildings in seconds. Sometimes the intelligence is exactly right. Other times, it isn't. A target fails to appear. A family happens to be inside the wrong building. A minor error in location becomes a tragedy measured in lives instead of meters. Those moments stay with you longer than any successful mission, but there's rarely time to process them. Another operation is already waiting, and hesitation isn't part of the job. When the deployment ends, you're quietly recognized for your service. The medal you receive has no public ceremony, no official announcement, and no headlines. The mission itself remains classified, carried out in a place where, on paper, you were never even present. Before long, a promotion arrives. This time, you won't simply follow orders, you will be responsible for the people carrying them out. After several years with the Special Activities Division, you're promoted to team leader. The responsibility changes overnight. You're no longer focused only on completing the mission. Now, every decision you make affects the lives of 8 operators who trust your judgment. If something goes wrong, the burden falls on you. Your next deployment takes you to Libya in the chaotic years following the fall of the government. Armed militias control neighborhoods, rival factions compete for power, and abandoned weapons depots are scattered across the country. Intelligence reports warn that chemical weapons could disappear into the hands of extremist groups if they aren't found first. For 6 tense weeks, you operate out of safe houses that change every couple of days. Sleep comes in short bursts, rarely more than a few hours at a time. Nights are spent moving through unstable streets, while the days are filled with meetings that could turn dangerous without warning. You negotiate with militia commanders, question prisoners whose stories constantly change, and pay informants who may be working for multiple sides at once. Every lead has to be investigated because ignoring the wrong one could have devastating consequences. Eventually, the information begins to line up. Your team uncovers several hidden stockpiles of mustard gas that official records never accounted for. The discovery confirms their worst fears. Leaving the weapons behind isn't an option, so demolition charges are carefully placed throughout the site. Once everyone reaches a safe distance, the explosives are triggered. Fire consumes the stockpiles as thick black smoke rises into the sky. All you can do is hope the wind carries it away from nearby communities. With the mission nearly complete, your convoy heads toward the extraction point. It never arrives without a fight. Gunfire suddenly erupts from a narrow side street. The first burst forces everyone to take cover, but within seconds 2 members of your team are hit. The situation collapses into chaos as bullets strike walls and vehicles around you. Returning fire buys only moments. One of the wounded operator can still move with help. The other cannot. Without waiting, you lift your injured teammate onto your shoulders and push toward the evacuation zone. Every step feels longer than the last wild rounds snap through the air around you. The distance isn't far, but under fire it feels endless. Finally, the helicopter appears overhead, giving your team the chance to escape. Everyone boards. One teammate survives, the other doesn't. After returning home, the mission remains classified. There are no public ceremonies explaining what happened or where it happened. Instead, you're asked to write letters to the families. You choose careful words about courage, sacrifice, and service, knowing you can't mention Libya, the chemical weapons, the ambush, or the desperate run to the helicopter. The most important parts of the story must remain unwritten. The families receive those letters and treasure them forever. Only you know how much of the truth they never contain. 15 years have passed since you first walked into that interview room as an eager applicant. The missions have changed you in ways that no medical report can fully explain. Your shoulder slips out of place from an old injury that never healed correctly. Your knees ache every morning after years of hard landings and long deployments. A constant ringing lingers in one ear, a reminder of an explosion in a country you'll never be allowed to name. You're only in your early 40s, but your body feels much older. Instead of another field assignment, you're promoted to Chief of Station, the senior CIA officer responsible for every intelligence operation inside an entire country. The work is different now, but the pressure hasn't disappeared. If anything, it's greater than ever. Each morning begins with meetings at the embassy. You brief the ambassador, review intelligence gathered overnight, and decide which operations move forward and which are too dangerous to continue. Every report, every undercover officer, and every local asset eventually passes across your desk. Some of those assets are people you recruited years earlier. Now they're running parts of their own intelligence services, feeding information through channels only you fully understand. Your days become a series of impossible decisions. Approve an operation, and it could prevent a future attack or trigger an international crisis if it fails. Cancel it, and valuable intelligence may disappear forever. There are no perfect choices, only calculated risks with consequences that may not become clear for months. The workload never really ends. 4 hours of sleep becomes normal. Phone calls arrive at every hour, and emergencies ignore weekends and holidays. Success remains hidden behind classified files, while failures have a way of becoming public long before anyone knows the full story. The greatest cost, however, isn't measured in reports or missions. It's personal. Somewhere along the way, your marriage quietly fell apart during another overseas assignment. Birthdays were missed. Anniversaries came and went from distant hotel rooms and secure compounds. Your children are adults now, but they've spent most of their lives knowing only the carefully crafted version of your career. They recognize the cover story you've repeated for years, yet the truth has always stayed locked away behind the same walls that protect every classified operation. Just when you think you've reached the highest level of responsibility, another assignment arrives, one that won't test your leadership in the field, but your ability to live with decisions that blur the line between necessity and morality. Your next assignment takes you somewhere that officially doesn't exist. The facility has no public address, no sign outside its walls, and no acknowledgement from any government. Even the country hosting it denies it exists. To the outside world, it's nothing more than another empty building. Inside, however, are reinforced cells holding some of the most valuable prisoners captured during counter-terrorism operations. Many were taken during raids, carried out across multiple countries. They were never formally charged, never brought before a courtroom, and never given the chance to speak to a lawyer. As far as the public knows, they simply disappeared. Now you're responsible for running the facility. Your mission isn't to guard prisoners. It's to gather intelligence that could prevent future attacks. Every day revolves around questioning detainees, searching for information that might expose hidden networks, bomb makers, financiers, or planned operations before they can happen. The methods used inside these walls are officially described with carefully chosen legal language. Behind those words are practices designed to push people beyond their limits. Sleep is withheld for days at a time. Prisoners are forced to remain in exhausting positions until their bodies begin to fail. One technique simulates the sensation of drowning, convincing the mind that death is only seconds away. When you first arrive, You're told these procedures have legal approval. Government lawyers have written opinions explaining where the boundaries supposedly lie. The paperwork gives the operations an appearance of legitimacy, even when the reality feels far more complicated. At first, you convince yourself the sacrifices are justified. If the information prevents even one attack, then perhaps the burden is worth carrying. Some days, that belief feels solid. Other days, it doesn't. Late at night, after the facility grows quiet, doubt begins to creep in. You replay conversations, question decisions, and wonder whether the line between protecting lives and losing part of your own humanity has slowly disappeared. The answers never come. Morning always arrives before you've settled the argument in your head. 2 years pass inside the shadows of that place. When your assignment finally ends, there are no reporters, no ceremonies, and no public acknowledgement of what happened there. You receive a commendation that remains locked inside classified files, attached to work that can never officially be discussed. You leave the black site behind, but its memories travel with you. Soon, you'll return to Langley not as an operator in the field, but as one of the people directing covert operations across the world. After decades spent operating in the shadows, you return to CIA headquarters at Langley. The same building that once intimidated you as a young applicant now feels strangely familiar. Every morning, you walk past the memorial wall, its marble surface marked only by carved stars. Some represent people you trained with. Others belong to friends who never came home. Their names remain classified, but you remember every face. Your new position is Division Director within the National Clandestine Service. The battlefield has changed once again. Instead of running individual missions, you're responsible for an entire network of covert operations spread across the globe. Hundreds of officers report through your command, while thousands of foreign assets quietly feed intelligence into the system every single day. The decisions on your desk carry enormous weight. Budgets worth billions of dollars move through classified programs that officially don't exist. Covert missions are planned for countries where no public operation has ever been acknowledged. Every approval can influence international politics, military strategy, or national security far beyond what the public will ever know. Your schedule becomes a constant cycle of secure briefings and high-level meetings. You present intelligence to the president, sit beside senior national security officials, and discuss operations that may never appear in history books. Sometimes you're asked to recommend targets for drone strikes. Other times, you're deciding whether a risky undercover mission should move forward or be cancelled before lives are placed in danger. Congress also demands answers. You appear before intelligence committees in sessions closed to the public. The questions can be direct, but your responses must remain carefully controlled. You reveal enough to satisfy oversight while protecting information that cannot leave the room. Every sentence is measured. Every detail is chosen with precision. The people asking the questions understand that some truths are meant to stay hidden, and in many cases, that's exactly what they prefer. By now, secrecy isn't just part of your career. It's become part of who you are. Years earlier, you carried classified documents through dangerous cities. Now you carry classified decisions that affect operations across continents. The scale has changed, but the burden feels just as heavy. Eventually, another chapter approaches one you've postponed for years. Retirement is finally within reach. But walking away from the agency won't mean leaving its secrets behind. After 30 years of service, your career finally comes to an end. The farewell isn't held in a grand auditorium or broadcast to the public. Instead, it's a quiet gathering inside a conference room at Langley. A small group of colleagues fills the seats, many of them people who spent years working beside you in places that will never appear on any map. The director thanks you for your dedication, your sacrifice, and the years you gave to protecting your country. When the applause fades, you receive one of the agency's highest honors. The medal is real. The recognition is real. But almost nobody outside that room can ever know why you earned it. When you return home, the award disappears into a box tucked away in a closet. It can't be displayed on a wall or proudly shown to visitors. If anyone ever asks about it, you'll need another harmless explanation. Even in retirement, the cover stories never completely end. Before leaving the building for the final time, you sign another stack of non-disclosure agreements. Every operation you directed, every identity you carried, every mission you completed, and every secret you've learned remains classified. Speaking openly about much of your life could still violate the law decades from now. You settle into a quiet home in Virginia, far from the constant movement that once defined your days. The pace is slower, but your habits never truly disappear. Every night, you check the locks more than once. Sometimes you wake before dawn and instinctively scan the property as if you're still protecting a safe house. Your body has left the field, but your mind never fully has. The physical injuries are easier to explain than the memories. You remember the assets who risked everything to help you and were captured before they could escape. You remember missions that succeeded and others that ended in ways no official report could ever fully describe. Faces return without warning, along with decisions that still leave you wondering whether there could have been another path. None of those moments will appear in history books. Most will never be acknowledged at all. One day, when your own story finally ends, there may be another star added to the marble wall at Langley. No name, no dates. Just a single carved symbol representing a life spent in service that few people will ever understand. At this very moment, somewhere else in the country, another applicant is sitting in front of a computer, completing the same online form you filled out decades ago. They picture excitement, purpose, and adventure. They don't see the polygraph room, the endless training, the false identities, the classified missions, the difficult choices, or the years of silence that follow. They have no idea how completely the journey will change them, but soon enough, they'll find out, just like you once did.